You know, a lot of things in karate, because I've had other students do this. Okay, you see karate and you oh, they go on here, they go out. That's not everybody.
Yes.
Teach me how to make a front stand.
So, either way, we'll say you go into Hadai left. Put your foot forward. I would recommend usually one square, though we're all built differently. So sometimes it could be a half square, quarter of a square. For me, usually it's about.
Okay. Less is more.
Alright. So almost encompass an entire square, or how much it fits. It's from there you would basically put at least 90% of your weight into the front foot, hence the name front stance. And from there this is mainly used for support, I would say. Okay. This the front stance allows for certain things like.
Well, you didn't ask what it's used for. You just asking how to do a front stance.
Yeah, my bad.
Teach me how to get into a front stance. Tell me what a front stance is supposed to look like.
Well, first off, I would say quickly move your foot back to this direction. Then go back towards the then go forward into the same area that your feet and think of it like an XY.
Okay, you're doing debate club. You're dead set. Yes.
Yes.
Less is more.
All right.
Describe a front stance to me.
You will move the foot. Make sure to move the foot forward. Lean against the falling front foot.
Okay.
Keep your body straight. Keep your body straight. Have less weight on it, but still able to support the back side. The back of your body, about 10%, I would say. That's how I would say it.
Okay. Describe a front stance for me. Yeah, put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Right into it.
Okay, am I starting them from a certain position?
The question stands. Describe a front
Okay,
stance to me.
a front stance. Okay, so I'd say a front stance is a position where you have one leg forward and bent.
Okay.
The other leg is straight, more straight but not locked.
Good.
It's been so long since I was told the percentage of weight distribution.
70-30. Kick that one down the road.
70,
90-10 cats.
30.
Yep.
Let's see. And the how to get to a front stance? Or?
No, just describe
Okay.
where you are right now. That'd be great.
Okay, so it's a 70-30. It's designed to help assist.
Okay. Not what it's used for.
Okay.
Just describe the stance.
Describing the stance.
Mhm.
Okay. So I already said you have one foot forward, you have one foot behind
Mhm.
you. There's a 70-30% weight distribution. You should not have your knees caving inwards.
Mm-hmm.
Your upper body should be straight. Like,
Yep.
your posture should be straight.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter what your hands doing because that's not exactly
Not relevant.
specific. Oh, yeah, I guess so. And you don't want your feet pointing wiggly directions unless that's structurally what you need to do to extend your foot forward.
Anybody ask you anything?
Shoulder width apart.
Does anybody ask you anything? We were just talking about that because that's what I was doing.
Okay, now, yes, not what I was wanting, a little more detail. The part that's relevant to Greg's question, Greg was asking a very specific question to him that applies really to everybody as far as stances go. One of the keys to stancing is your hips. And this is where I will disagree with many modern styles, because they will tell you long stance, which is to each their own. But what happens is your body's meant to be in a certain position. So if I'm in yoidach, how wide are my feet?
About shoulder width.
About shoulder width. Define shoulder for me.
I find
Shoulder.
shoulder to be the center point of your shoulder, where the bone, you can feel the bone part of your
Okay,
shoulder.
so in here, okay.
edge of where the arm, edge of the arm area.
Edge of the arm, okay.
Area.
I'm gonna say something that doesn't make sense, but essentially for me, shoulder width is if you ask someone to be in a relaxed stance with their feet apart, roughly where they comfortably go.
Okay. All three of those answers are correct to a certain degree. For my yoidach, here comes the detail. I like it. It's a very, it's a nice answer, especially if you're teaching beginners. I like it. It's kind of a good way to get them somewhere. Greg and I agree. Basically, the armpit. If I'm going to talk about shoulder width, I'm going to talk about my armpits. Because where my armpits are and where Greg's armpits are, what are they in line with as they go down? The outer edge of your hips, the outer edge of your pelvis. So if I start talking about my shoulders, Greg's shoulders, your shoulders, John Eric's shoulders, this would be shoulder width. This is way too wide for your dodge. Hips are all out of angle. Now I have to go somewhere first to go somewhere. So unless they are really oddly shaped, it's not going to be the outer edge. Let's say probably some females, if they're really hip shaped, pear shaped, where their shoulders are really in there, then yeah, okay, maybe it would be the outer edge.
Or then you could just really say focus on
Right,
balancing with your hips.
Right.
Balancing your hips.
Then we would talk about the angle of the hip joint rather than in the shoulder.
Which, can I point out, ironically, the shoulder width probably came from guys, since that's the center
Good
of
point,
gravity.
yeah.
Probably. You're absolutely right. Okay,
Like,
and you just realized what was making my eye twitch. You got
Yeah.
feng shui all off.
Well, remember, you made me look in the mirror, that's
Yeah,
why.
okay. Yeah, we'll blame me for that. But, okay. I'm just saying, I'm like, there's something making my eye twitch. What is it? Oh, so my feng shui is way off. All right, that makes me much
You want
happier.
mine?
Okay, so if that's our position for our yoidach, how wide is a front stand?
I view it as the distance of your chest plate, because really, you're balancing your upper body. So the width, wide.
Wide.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
shoulder width still, the same.
Shoulder width
I
still.
think shoulder
Right,
width, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So make a front stand. You kind of see yourself in the second
Yes.
position. Right. Where you normally end up, the outer edge of your foot is in line basically from here with the outer edge of your shoulder. You're not lined up, to me, where you line up for your yoidach.
And I think either way it's getting, I think when I did it a minute ago, I'm trying to widen out by having this leg go out, and it brings this leg, the issue that I have, this. And because of that, you're right, it kind of, the same difference, but I looked at it from starting, I need to bring this foot in,
Right.
so I feel more, but because again, I've, what's the word? Erroneously, I don't know how I've been viewing it as, I think from even white belt stage, I would hear things like wider, longer. So I was doing,
Right.
okay, let me go wider. This looks wide enough. We're really, because I noticed you do your front stance is kind of like this.
Right.
And I like that. I would think someone would say to me, you need to do it. It's a fighting stance, sure, but it feels front stancey to me.
Right. Because what would be the difference between a fighting stance and a front stance?
Whether you're training or actually fighting.
I would disagree with that.
Okay.
It's weight distribution.
I view the front stance almost like how we learn to punch like this, but when you're fighting, you do this, but you're still using the same level of power. I view the front stance as getting you to where you could be even here. That's how I looked at it, no?
To develop a foundational skill.
Right.
Yes, we're kind of saying the same thing. Fighting stance and a front stance physically are about the same. Maybe you shorten a little bit, Hanzen, half front stance, whatever. But from a fighting stance, the weight distribution is even.
Yes.
So I'm gonna hit a front stance, all of a sudden now I'm in a front stance. 'Cause I'm gonna shift my weight forward behind whatever technique it is.
Yes.
So I'm gonna shift from a fighting stance to a front stance, and the only real difference is my weight shift, my weight distribution. I go from 50-50 60, 70, 30.
Cause I view the front stance as, like you said, twice as long probably as a fighting stance. Like I viewed it as front stance would be here, fighting stance would be.
Right, we're coming to that in just a
Okay.
second, so another little detail I wanted to throw out here. So, front stance, hip width, shoulder width, let's just call it hip width for now, just to kind of make things easier.
Yes.
So, front stance is hip width, which we want to end up, if this is my foot, this is my shin bone, we want as close to 90 degrees from all four directions. I don't want my shin bone laying back, I don't want my knee over my toes, and I definitely don't want, inside outside. So I want this. Now, when we talk about not being able to see your toes, if I'm here and I look down, I can't really see or just barely see my
Yeah, I can't see
toes on
mine
my
from
knee.
here.
Right, so I don't need to do this to get that. From a 90-degree ankle, I can still get that. Now, I also don't want this so wide that I'm doing this, or so narrow that I'm doing this. And when we talk about longer and wider, it's usually because somebody's doing this, because they landed too narrow and their heels are actually in line, or close to it, or they are inside their hip line. So now I'm no longer hip width, I'm actually less than hip width.
I'm gonna have to unlearn something that is.
Now, as Greg was pointing out, for a front stance, yes, a traditional drill style front stance is a training stance. Because we're gonna fight from a more upright stance. From a textbook front stance, we talked about width. How long? Greg said the length of his torso, okay?
You want my philosophy or no, you don't need it?
If you wanna offer it
Well,
up to
the
the rest of
philosophy is
the,
I
you told me
view it-
before, but if you wanna offer
I
it up.
view
to
it
the-
as, it's holding up this upper part of your body, so it needs to be that length in between to feel like this is the middle of that space.
Right.
So it's
Make an
even,
apron
there you go.
on top of stilts.
What else could we define that as? Because he's not wrong.
What, arm's length?
Well, okay, that's another, not what I was wanting. If we, would it be possible or prudent to have one system of measurement?
No.
Why not?
One system?
One system.
Because it depends on what you're measuring.
So, the metric system couldn't measure everything? Imperial couldn't measure everything?
Okay, so not one dimension, but one system.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, yeah, okay, I see the flaw in
Sorry.
my logic. No, thank
I
you
did
for that,
what
'cause
Greg
now I'm
did.
seeing where the disconnect is.
Yeah, I meant, for
One-
instance, you can't use inches to do liter or
Right,
whatever.
okay, yeah, no, okay, let me rephrase how I asked the questions, now I see the disconnect. Would it be useful or prudent to have one length measurement, a standard SI length unit?
It would be helpful.
Would be helpful, okay?
You could compare people. I mean, I guess you could do probably ratios between their width and length.
It allows perspective for what you're talking about.
Right. If we could use a base unit that was universal to everyone and still changeable regardless of size, would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you mean by changeable?
Well, if I've got a child that's this big, being able to tell them measurement using the same words that I would tell Shiana Air.
Alright, so
Relative.
basically, I see.
Yes or no, Mike?
Yes.
Okay,
Assuming you had like an existing proportional relationship.
right, okay,
Use
so,
this part.
That'd be really cool. Like shoulder width.
like shoulder width, okay, we're talking about hip width, okay, front stance, let's get out of the shoulder for just a second. We're talking about our yoidach and our front stance being hip width.
So of 2 times hip width.
Exactly.
I knew where you were
Because
going.
we've
I
had this
can't-
discussion
hold on, I
before,
can't
that's
believe
why
it.
I was like,
No,
okay,
I can't
very
believe I'm
interesting.
actually getting to a point where I'm answering a question.
Well, you've heard it often enough. It's about
You
time.
dumbass, right?
Okay? Because within small increments, if I were to measure across my hips, and I draw it up here, it would be almost twice.
Yes.
So that's why that
Yes.
works.
Yes.
So your front stance should be, ideally, twice hip width. Which is why you can turn from a front stance to a Shiko, because a Shiko is twice hip width.
You'll have to do it now.
Alright. So, go hold Oki. Front stance, Shiko, front stance, Shiko, front stance, Shiko. Right? Because it's twice hip width.
Yes.
When you say twice hip width, what are you speaking like X and Y, or are you speaking diagonally? Or length to
Y.
X? Okay.
Basically from foot to foot, you should be able to fit twice your hips
Interesting.
in there.
Okay.
So would you say though, this would also be proportional to any human being or not
Yes.
necessarily? Okay.
For the majority of people, people are proportional. Okay, you get those,
Giant.
genetic freaks and
Mhm.
giants and, whatever, and that are gonna be different.
Which would be the hip too.
Which,
would be
but, yeah, but, even for somebody that's weird, let's take I don't care what y'all's particular wording for this is.
Short
I'm gonna
person.
use I'm not gonna do that because short person is too, I'm gonna use the medical term dwarf, okay? Everybody knows what
Yes.
dwarfism is,
Yep.
okay? Even though their legs, arms, and torso are disproportionate to the average non-dwarfism person, hips are about the same
Yes.
compared to their legs. So to go with hip width, it would probably work for them very well.
Or chest though, really, right?
No, I've seen some where their legs, but their chest is, so
Okay.
that's why with
Okay.
with dwarfism, you get some different proportions.
Yes. Yes.
So that's why I was, but the ones that I've seen, hip width would probably work because they're kind of tied into the legs.
Yes.
But the torso might not be universal
Yes, yes.
in that instance.
Yes.
And then, of course, you get, people like Shaq. Freaking giant. So he could probably, as long as his legs are, he could probably make a front stance properly and be 3-4 times his hip width, just because his arms and legs are so.
So if he did it, looked like he was standing up, basically.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Which leads me to the other point I was gonna make. You will get students who, that's what they will look like. But they will get this idea of what karate should look like and not be able to move. I had a student, several students, very tall, very thin framed women. Their hips literally were this wide, but their legs were, like dancer legs. But because their hips were as narrow as they would try and get into this, this Hollywood picture of a front stance and do this, and they would be, 4, 5, 6 hip
Times the
widths long, and it would do weird things with the angle that we were talking about up here, and it also, because of that, it shifts their weight to the center of the stance. So
It's
now
hard
to
to get
move,
propel.
yeah, they have to move to move.
Yes.
But if they
Similar
go,
to me moving to move. Yes.
exactly. But if they did twice hip width, they look like they're standing up vertically, but they can move from here.
Yes.
And for their body, and their whatever, it's perfectly acceptable.
Yes.
But a lot of times they would get into, well, it doesn't look like
Yes.
karate. Well, who cares? What does karate look like?
Yes. 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 Sorry,
Did I answer your question?
I ate up your, It was a good
question. I think valuable.
Yes. No, that does help, and I think what it's going to, for me, show me is, I'm not gonna focus as much as how it looks, how it feels.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, definitely here feels better to me and balanced than
in there.
here, and I see where my leg starts caving in, which is why I wanna do this, because it just allows it to feel more even when I'm getting in, so it was, thank you.
We talked about that when I was here, actually June, right? Not this observing, because of my knees, because we were talking about how I need to adjust my stance a little bit outwards because of the structure of my knee,
Is,
Right.
to be able to move properly.
is,
And- Yeah, because you also run into, that where, people are, naturally duck-footed
Yes.
or naturally pigeon-toed. Like James's wife, when she used to train, she is severely duck-footed, okay? Not good or bad, it's just the way she's built.
is,
This is her yoga stance, and it works for her. To tell her to do this, no. This is her son Sheen, because this is as far in
Oh, really?
as she can grab.
wow, is,
Her hips, again, just the way they're shaped, don't allow this degree of rotation.
is,
So, there's textbook, and then there's what's right for you, what's right for you,
Yes.
what's right for you, and what's right for you, all that. Okay. Have we done karaoke with you guys before?
we have, but, yes, we have.
A long time
Okay,
ago.
it's a long time ago.
Long
Wait,
time.
isn't that the one that you go back, go for, here?
That's when you do it together, right? That you're talking about maybe I don't, I thought kakauki, you could do it where you have a partner and you're doing, it's like the block and the, no? Never mind then, maybe. I don't
Oh,
remember.
no, that,
Maybe I'm not
that's, I
remembering.
think you're talking about sticky hand,
Okay,
which is a little bit different.
I
okay,
think I'm just thinking of a different card, I'm just thinking of a kata.
Kakite.
okay,
Sticky.
okay. No, then I've heard it, I'm sure we've done it, it's been a while.
Okay, now everybody back up a little bit where you can kind of see. These two need it for things that they're doing, you're gonna need it eventually, so you might as well, like, Brandon, step that way a little bit so I can see your hands a little better. Okay, well, what you guys do, just from yoidach, just make kamai with your hands, middle guard. Okay, now, what I want you to do is, can you see how my pinkies are kind of in line here, this way? If you're wider or turned out, I want you to kind of bring them in a little bit so that the pinkies are in line on this way. Greg, one up and one down, a little more. Yeah, there we go, okay. Katie, same thing, separate them this way a little bit more. Good, okay, this top hand, I'm gonna push across. The bottom hand, I'm gonna open, come under. Come up, palm, turn them both. Good.
Should it still be in the center? I'm off center.
Right,
so-
like I'm grabbing an arm or.
In the center of you.
In the
know.
center. Yeah, top hand's gonna push across, bottom hand comes up looking at the palm, turns over with the other one and pulls down. Top hand pushes across, palm comes up, pull down. Top hand pushes across, bottom one comes up, pull down. Push across, come under, pull. Push across, come under, pull down. Good. Now, one motion. Doesn't have to be fast, but smooth. Okay, not actually manipulating. Greg punches something out. Punches. The other one fires, whatever. This way. Right. So whatever this is coming straight line, push across, and I'm gonna grab.
That's why I'm using the bottom one
Use the
first.
bottom hand first. Just because he fired lower than.
But it shows that, because you're doing this, so.
Yeah.
whatever. Again, we talk about Mwashu, mother of all blocks, right, this is the top half or the bottom half, depending upon how you wanna look at it. But the key to this is this wrist manipulation here. Turning.
Which is this, or is that? Which is my paper mobile.
Okay, so, go back to grabbing,
Couple more right hand?
it doesn't matter, just cross. Cross, and grab. And grab. Cross, and grab. Keep going, it's on your own. All right, good, Yuma. Questions on that?
I love that movement.
Okay. Now, for you two, why did I bring it up now? Especially for you, why now?
And I was going to have something relevant to do with what I'm currently learning.
Which is what?
Thing.
Sounds like, starts with, starts with G, yeah, okay. Gion, there we go. So where in Gion would I think, yes, Greg just gave you the answer.
Sorry.
He wasn't paying attention. You get cheat, there we go. You need to pay attention. When they give you the answer, you're right. It's the same crossing motion. Which is why when we turn, we don't go, bleh.
Well, let me ask, but maybe it's just concept, when I do it, I kinda do,
Yes.
I haven't really been,
We're doing exactly the same thing, we're just
We are?
looking at it slightly different,
okay.
but yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right,
This.
right. So, everything that we do in some way has to cross the center line of our body.
This.
Why? Why would I say that? Why would I say that anything that we do needs to cross the center line of our body?
Cause,
Good.
Movement from your, centripetal force movement, because we are an object with flailing arms.
Right.
Any movement that comes from our core, like from this
Mhm.
center point, generates more, force than it would be if you're just doing this, because our bodies
Okay.
aren't structured to be lateral or.
Hip torque. I'll
Thank
boil
you.
it down to two
Torque.
words for you. Hip torque,
It's torque.
yes.
yeah, I was gonna say that the center of your body is the midpoint of your body, which allows you to maximize your force in anything you're doing.
Hip torque.
Hip torque, same thing.
Yes.
Which one works? More, well, I don't wanna say more practical, but more protective. We use that word.
More protective.
More protective.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it's a question.
To do what? To use the.
Why, okay, talking about why do I say everything that we do has to cross the center line of our body?
Oh.
Why would I say from a aspect of being more protective?
Because that allows you to clear anything from your body, because if it doesn't cross the center. there's
Right,
no
you got
reason-
this big lane that goes, hit you right down the middle. So everything that we do in some fashion is gonna has to cross the center line of our body. For the hip torque, for the power, all of that. But also from the fact that if I do block, or I do block, or I do block, if we talk about this piece from Gion here, what are some of the potential bon cas for that motion? Grabbing another person, okay?
I mean, I look at it too as freeing yourself from someone holding you.
There we go, that's the one I'm looking for, we'll come back to that, okay?
Damn, I'm striking gold
You're
today.
striking gold
You
today.
feeling okay?
See,
You sure you won't even admit that it's right.
Hey, you came in, you know.
Said the right thing. I sweet talked you.
Right. Apparently, you know, even a blind pig gets a truffle now and again, right? So, today's your day. You should go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Apparently today's your day.
It could be a starting point.
For? Well,
I
obviously.
mean, when you, okay, I'm not super familiar with, what do we call it?
Gion.
Geom,
You
with
don't
that
need to be.
movement specifically, but technically, if you cross and you are here, I mean, you're almost in a protective stance
Absolutely,
right off the bat.
absolutely.
And you're pretty much in a fighting stance, to be quite honest, if you
Absolutely.
turn your wrist. So then you could pretty much do whatever you wanted that you would do from a fighting stance in that position.
Absolutely. But the one that I wanted to get to, because it deals with crossing the center line more visually than a lot of them. But Greg grabs, and I do this. Not quite so good, right? If I do, I can eventually get something. Want that done. And then, just like you were saying, I'm right here. So if I down here and I'm fighting this way, yeah, but he's not gonna give me that amount of time. Plus, the whole time I'm doing this, eventually he's gonna get tired of it and.
And I've still got your center.
And you still got this, cause he's gonna start working all of this. His life has just gotten infinitely harder, right here.
And you're in a power position, and I'm kind of in a, my body doesn't want to be like this.
Because I'm not trying to hold anything, so I'm using bicep, everything else. He's trying to hold me, so basically all he's got is his thumbs. And that's not gonna last very long. Right here. And then I end up here. Whatever. So we must. And punch cones. Crossing. Kakiyuki. Whatever.
So go slow. I'm gonna go slowly. So you do it.
And then from here, I would turn it into Kakiyuki because I want to hold here.
Plus with that, you got again. Technically, it's like a double black. If you this one missed, you still had the,
Absolutely.
the other one.
Yeah.
So
No, it's absolutely double block. Shoot, this is my blocking hand. This is my gravy hand. Here. And if I get stupid, whoa, okay, I've still got that one coming.
When you were doing that, this might be relevant, but irrelevant. What stops, in that movement you just did, what stops Greg from punching you with his, like, in your side, with his left hand?
Before or after?
You do it again.
There's the punch cones.
There.
Here? Oh, absolutely nothing.
Okay, so
Well,
you
I would-
could in theory.
I would disagree though.
Really?
Because again, because you crossed over and you moved me, even if I punch, it's not really that. It won't be as effective. Again, technically, I'm going so past my here would be strong, but here's like, so he's probably gonna be like, oh, you tickled me.
So it'd be, it'd have to be
Especially if you're
like a
moving
kick.
strong. Sorry.
It'd have to be like a kick to get to that point, maybe.
No, and here's the thing. Greg's not wrong in what he's saying or describing, but it's not the complete story, which is where I wanna stop that. Well, no, it's an incorrect assumption that I don't want to stick.
Right.
So we're here, and if all Greg did was fire that arm, then I'm just gonna beat you.
Right, that makes sense.
Your
But-
hand is gonna hurt me more than mine.
Well,
is gonna
absolutely,
hurt you.
no, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But more than likely, you're not gonna do that, you're gonna do
Do that.
that. You're also gonna retract that hand.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
So if I'm here, just hinky tag and punch. Same time though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what probably is gonna happen.
Right.
But that's not really gonna help him a whole lot, because once I'm here and he does that, I'm gonna fire him.
Ouch.
And it goes
Now,
like
now,
that. Okay.
see, for me, here, I probably would be better going like that and trying to get away from it. I would just punch and try to get away. So I'd go with where you're pushing me
Right.
and just,
So we're in here,
you know,
and then, boom, you move.
right. You move. The point is, I think the other way would make me more vulnerable to try to.
And you're not wrong, now we're getting into personal
Who's-
strategy.
who's-
And you're absolutely- But it's like, okay, why does the kata go that way and then do the exact same thing on that side?
So you get used to the
So
terrain.
we get you, we go, okay, boom, next, oh.
This.
Now, most people from that position would not fire that body shot. Most people would still retract and fire this. Because most people who don't train and don't understand other targeting, they're head hunters. That's what they wanna do. So if this happened, then that other one would probably wanna come this way, which is what Gion from the complete outer picture is showing.
Right.
But from the more subtle.
Because as soon as I see this, I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm so open right here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get away or do something, cause I'm thinking I'm dead at that point. I'm like this.
But from Gion's point of view, what does Gion do? Do Gion? That's a rear leg kick. It's a kick, that's showing for people who do what you wanna do. Slide away, you get the kick.
Ah, okay,
So,
gotcha.
okay, you're here, you do that, oh, I missed, oh, boom, kick.
I'm assuming people don't like to kick like me.
Well, like I say, I'm not gonna kick you from that distance. I'm gonna, here, I'll kick you, from there, I'll come back. You go over there, it's like, okay, it's fine, you'll eventually come back, or you'll go away.
Yes.
Well, done what I needed to do.
Oh, shit.
Good, okay.
Was the incorrect assumption that?
That there was
because-
only a kick, is what I heard you say,
Oh,
only a kick.
Okay, understood.
You're saying there's more than just the kick.
There's more than just a kick there.
Yes.
So even though, you know, as Greg was describing, this punch is basically useless.
Right.
It doesn't preclude everything that Greg was doing, it doesn't preclude this type of punching. So kicks are not the only thing
Right.
available.
Yes, yes.
They are a thing of many. Cool?
Yes.
Okay. Right back out. Face front. Let me shoot over to the back here. Alright, Tenno kata? Gion.
Joe.
You know?
Hajime. That punch. We change? Leave hands on the side. Now, put the foot back where it was. Your left foot stays in front, and you just step across. Yeah, man, both of you, please. You keep going. Again,
Push.
there you go, and reverse plunge. There you go, good. Your leg turn, there you go, yep. High punch. High punch. Yep. Good. Good. All right.
Need to ask a question on it.
Ask your questions.
Can get that out of here. And then step again, right?
Step again. Cross first. That's block. Step double. Step X block. X block.
Also
Then, yeah. 1, 2. There you go. Do it again.
I'm moving backwards.
It happens. We'll talk about that in a second. One more time. Let Brandon do this one more time. Then we'll-
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And my second movement, so I'm here, right? The down block. Am I supposed to step forward with this one? This.
Punch you, punch you. Yeah, wait, right. Nope, do that one. Now, put that foot back where it was.
Okay.
It should be in a right Sanchin and a right punch. You got
Right
the right,
Sanchin, right punch.
right Sanchin, right punch. There you go. Now, rear leg turn for the 45.
Back to the 45.
There you go. Yep. That one. Yep. Good. Lower punch. There you go. Good, anyway. Questions on time, okay. Questions on you?
Actually, what was it? Yeah, no, I remember. It was, down here, oh, I see, reinforce, was it, go here and let's move up? Okay, just want to make sure, it just always kind of felt off, even though the next time I do it, it actually feels a little bit right, for some reason.
Okay. No, you thought that was fine.
Yeah.
No problem with that. To, just Katie's question, or maybe not question, but I heard it as a question. walking backwards in tendo kata. It doesn't start and stop in the same place. You actually end up a little bit behind. We've talked about before what differentiates, or some of the things that differentiate Shito-ryu, the system, from other styles. One of the big things that differentiates Shito-ryu kata from other kata, from other style, from the kata done by other styles, there we go, is that we do not force the kata to start and stop in the same place. It does, with one notable exception, end up on the same vertical line. So if you start in the middle of this row, you're going to end up in the middle of this row, which you might end up forward or back. The one notable exception being Nichu Shiho, which you end up somewhere over there. It's a really uniquely angled cut, to say the least. So if you find yourself on the same line, you're good. If you find yourself left or right, other than doing Nichu Shiho, then you start looking at what you're doing. So it also begs the question, though, as to why. Like a nice simple kata, like tendo kata, one way to map out tendo kata is this, right? So we start here, down block sanshin, down block sanshin, down block punch, 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 turn, down block rising block, turn, down block rising block, turn, down block reverse punch, 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 down block high punch, down block high punch, down block high punch, right?
Mhm.
Everybody can see that?
Right.
Okay. But being this symmetric in this visual, why would we not end up right here? We actually end up about here. Because, you know, it's 3 steps this way, it's 3 steps that way, so why not?
Does that have to do with the rotation backwards?
Yes. But why?
I know you said movements backwards tend to be shorter, but in this case it's
Now,
longer.
it shouldn't be shorter, but in this case, it makes you actually go a little bit longer.
Because it's a hypotenuse. But no, they should all be hypotenuses, so that shouldn't matter. But you said it does matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, not necessarily, I'm not gonna argue the geometry from that aspect of it, because I'm not that familiar.
That's okay.
It has to do with combative distance. What determines combative distance?
Bad distance is usually determined.
Not usually, what determines combative distance?
It's determined by how far your back leg can hit.
No,
Well,
you're
how
poking
far
at
you
it,
can
but
put-
no.
how
What
far
determines
you can-
combative distance?
determines-
Okay, what is combative distance?
Bad distance is how far you can basically hit an opponent.
Right. It's how long your arms and legs are, how far your rifle can shoot, how far your ICBM can go. Okay. Combative well, make a fight.
But
If Brandon and I are here, there's a physical measurable distance between the two of us. Whatever that is, about 3 feet and change. The combative distance is, can I hit Brandon from here? Yes. Can Brandon hit me from here? Yes. Can I hit Brandon from here? Yes. It's actually gonna be easier for me to hit him from here. Can I hit Brandon from here? Not quite. Now without doing something. So, what determines combative distance?
how far the back leg egg is.
Be more specific. It is the position of the big toe ball of my back foot is what determines my combative distance. So if I'm here, and I'm definitely within combative distance, because I can reach out. But the second, so I can do whatever I want with this front foot, and I'm still within my combative distance. The second that I move the ball of that back foot, I've now moved farther away from him. Not just physically, but combatively.
So you've also shortened the rotation of your hip
again, yes, that's from this reference frame,
Right.
relative to him, you're absolutely right.
Cool.
So when we get up here,
To the top end of this eye, our right foot is forward. So our left big toe is back here, right? So this is what's determining our combative distance. Going this way. Once I turn, my combative distance measurement actually shifts to this back foot, and probably not physically, probably not geometrically, but from a combative standpoint, it pushes our combative distance this way, because when I step, and then I step again, even though it might still be 3 steps this way, I've actually added 2 steps to my combative distance this way before I start my 2 steps.
So even though we step backwards, it's the position of our back foot's ball of the foot. So in theory, we might actually overlap, but our stances might be such that our back foot may be overlapping with where our front foot was originally in the stance.
Right. So it's gonna tend to shift everything that way, so. Cool. Anything else, questions, comments, concerns? Well, yes, sir. Start informal, we'll end informal. What the next? Go home.